Hey, special educators. Welcome to Teach, Taskbox, Inspire, the podcast dedicated to making your job as a special education teacher easier by making your instruction more fun for you and your students. Inside each episode, you'll learn how to get the most use out of your task boxes in the classroom. I'm your host, Lisa Holiday from Chalkboard Superhero, a veteran special education teacher passionate about empowering you with purposeful teaching strategies, helpful tips and tricks, and other classroom management tools that will help you thrive in your role. Let's get started with today's episode. Hey there, special education teachers, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I'm your host, Lisa Holiday, and today I want to talk about something that's kind of been weighing on my mind, finding your passion in teaching. So a few years ago, I found myself in a self-contained high school position working in a severe autism classroom with 6 students. I really had a fantastic team of 3 teaching assistants, and I genuinely loved what I was doing. It felt like the perfect fit at the time. But as the years rolled on, I noticed that the fire I once had for my job began to dim. So this was not easy to admit, especially since I had invested so much into my students over the past 5 years. As I continued to work in that position, I began to feel the weight of stagnation. I was following the unique learning curriculum on a 3-year rotation, as I was told to do, and while I adore my students, the novelty of the curriculum was wearing off. There were other contributing factors as well as, lack of supportive administration, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, after an incident that changed my feelings, I decided to resign from that job. But before that incident, about, I would say 18 months earlier, I had my 3rd baby and I just took off a year for maternity leave. And during that time, I had the chance to kind of reflect on what I truly wanted in my career. I realized how much I missed being around kids and how fulfilling it was to work alongside, fellow educators. Honestly, I was bored. I did not like being home. I wanted to be around people again. So after my maternity leave, I returned to the same position, kind of hoping to rekindle that initial excitement. However, I soon felt that something was still missing. So after just 6 weeks being back in that classroom, that incident happened and I made that difficult decision to resign. So what ended up happening was I took a 4-month break, which provided me time to think really deeply about my career path. Eventually, I accepted a new position in another district, opening a brand new autism program. I was so excited. I was like jumping up and down. I got the call that I got the job when I was in Florida with my family. We were on our way to Disney World, and I just remember being in the airport, jumping up and down with my family that I got this job. It was so exciting. But I quickly recognized that the program had been rolled out in a hurry and the administration wasn't supportive. So I really found myself overwhelmed, and it became clear that my love for self-contained settings was coming to an end. And I cannot even tell you how difficult that decision was for me. Then an unexpected opportunity arose. The district kind of had up this position as a 5th grade inclusion teacher in a blended program at a middle school had popped up. I had never considered inclusion before, but after 6 weeks of being in this new role, I can generally say that I absolutely love it. It's challenging to articulate really why this experience resonates with me so much, but really, I feel less drained at the end of the day. And the emotional burden I carried in my previous positions, it was gone. In the self-contained setting, it's so hard to say in words, but I really felt physically and emotionally overwhelmed, constantly managing diverse needs and behaviors of my students. I felt like I was on all day long. Now I have 8 students on my caseload, and I've developed such a real, meaningful relationship with each of them. They tell me I'm their favorite teacher, and I just can't describe the joy I feel when they hug me each morning and afternoon. Also, the camaraderie among my colleagues is so uplifting. And I've found a supportive team environment that encourages questions and continuous learning. Like, no question is stupid. So really, it's so amazing. I go to work every day excited. I want to be there. Every single day, I feel like I'm teaching something new because obviously they're in a gen ed setting. So we are constantly having to move on. Before, in a self-contained setting, I would be teaching the same things over and over and over again, trying to get my students to learn the new skill. And here, I'm teaching something new every single day. Right now, there are 10 periods, and I'm going from class to class to class, teaching something new all of the time. And it's so different from what I was doing before in a self-contained setting. It's not boring anymore. I love lesson planning. I love PLCing, where I can get together with my colleagues and talk about, okay, what's coming up? What do we need to plan for? A big thing that I think about a lot is I always felt like I was on my own island, right? In a self-contained setting, you're kind of alone. Obviously, you have the support from the teaching assistants that are in your room, but I always felt like I had no other friends in the building. And that especially was true in my previous setting, where it was just me figuring out what to do in my classroom all of the time. I just felt very unsupported and alone. Here, I have the entire fifth grade team, which is like so many people I don't even remember their names. And everyone is working to help these students out. And I love that. So the main reason I kind of wanted to share my journey with you today is this. If you're feeling stuck in a role that no longer excites you, it might be time for a change. There's a world of opportunities out there, whether it's taking a mental health leave or exploring new districts or switching grade levels. Don't hesitate to seek out what feels right for you, or really what doesn't feel right for you, because I'm telling you now that I would have never jumped on inclusion because I thought my life as a self-contained teacher would be until I retired. And when I first started teaching 16 years ago, I would have never imagined that I would find fulfillment in a middle school setting, let alone in a blended program. So the pace of my current role really keeps me engaged and exciting. And honestly, the truth is, we all go through phases in our careers, and it's completely okay to pivot and explore new paths. I will say that in this new district, it is not frowned upon for you to go try something else. Sometimes your fire goes out and you need something different. So if you've stumbled upon this podcast today and feel like you've needed to hear this message, I really encourage you to take that leap of faith. Change can be so daunting, but it can also lead to really amazing opportunities and a renewed passion for teaching. So embrace the journey and remember that it's never too late to rediscover your love for this incredible profession. I'm telling you this as you might be listening to this as a self-contained teacher doing this for 25 years. If you no longer have the passion to do it, even after 25 years, try something different. Thanks for joining me on this special episode of Teach, Task, Box, Inspire. Keep pushing, stay curious, and most importantly, keep inspiring your students. You've got this. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Teach, Task, Box, Inspire. I hope you've gained some tips and motivation to fuel your week ahead. If you're ready to explore more strategies for empowering your students as independent learners, be sure to dive into my free training at chalkboardsuperhero.com/training. And don't keep all this knowledge to yourself. Share this episode with your special education teacher friends who could use some motivation and inspiration. One more thing before you go. If you're finding this podcast helpful and want to show support, head to Apple Podcasts and leave your rating and review. Until next time, keep teaching, task boxing, and inspiring.